Gini Dietrich, are you ready to fearlessly question again?
Again? Yes, I am.
All right. Well, I have to ask. I just want to make sure that you're okay. You've agreed to come back. You're the first time repeat guest. Are you okay? Is that?
Well, there might be something mentally wrong, but we're gonna go with it.
I won't ask questions. I want to tell you the votes are in. I have to. I guess I'm proud to present you with. It was pretty close. But the award for most high maintenance guest of the show. I think I have to present it to you.
I can't be the most highest. Really?
It's
gotta be one that's more high maintenance than me.
I could lie to you and say yes if that. I hand out fake awards quite a bit, and I don't do them. I don't do them just kind of willy nilly. I make sure I hand out legitimate fake awards.
All right, I have been a little high maintenance on this one.
That's all right. I will forgive you. We'll move past it. Let's talk about something that is maybe a little more upbeat. Possibly, I don't know. But so first, kind of not real fearless question to you is: we share something in common. Happened a couple days ago. What is your most? How should I put this? What's the biggest birthday annoyance for you these days?
The biggest birthday annoyance?
Yeah.
Well, for everybody out there, Joey and I share the same birthday, February 10th. Biggest birthday annoyance? I don't think there is one. I love my birthday. I love everything about my birthday.
Everything?
Yeah.
Even in like the social media age of like kind of fake birthday wishes?
All right, that's fair. The people who schedule the birthday greetings, that kind of annoys me because how hard is it to go onto Facebook and say happy birthday? And it's all, you can always tell because the grammar is incorrect or the capitalization is incorrect. You can always tell.
Nothing annoying. I always feel annoyed because it's like I'm a year older and I'm not where I want to be. It's a very depressing time. It's just like I'm never satisfied.
Everybody's ever where they want to be, so don't be so hard on yourself.
Well, you got to be a little hard on yourself, right?
You do have to be a little hard.
Well, since the last time you were on the show, I did want to point out one observation that I have, and I want to ask. I think I've discovered your superpower. I don't know if you've noticed this. You've probably noticed this because I'm sure kind of creepy things happen to you from time to time. But you have the unique ability to make people feel like they're more of your friend than they probably actually are. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, yes.
So I want to know how many restraining orders you've had to issue over the years, or what kind of weird occurrences happen outside your house on a daily basis.
I've only had to issue one restraining order, and it was before all of this.
So. Oh, seriously, I didn't even think I've never even met anybody that's had a real restraining order. I was not searching for that at all, but okay.
I did have one time where I was at the movies, and this guy was sitting outside the theater waiting for me, and he was like, "Are you Gini Dietrich?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "I've been dying to meet you. I saw you check in on Foursquare." And I thought, I'm never using Foursquare again.
Wow, that is wow, yeah, that's like Lifetime movie kind of creepy.
Yeah, a little creepy.
All
he
right.
was harmless, I think, but yeah, that's a little creepy.
All right. Well, we will. Enough of the shenanigans. We will kind of dive right into this thing and actually get some serious questions asked. So, if you're ready, first, real fearless question to you. We are fearlessly questioning altering perceptions. My question to you is why do you play the perception game?
Why do I play the perception game?
Yes.
I don't know that I necessarily do. I think, from a PR perspective, I definitely do not. And I know where you're going with this, so I'll just preempt it. From a New York Times bestseller list,
I wasn't going to talk about that.
You were too. I definitely do fall into that because in the corporate world, people pay a lot of credence to that. And even though we all know that the system is gamed and that you can buy your way onto the list and all that, we all know that. But outside there in the real world, people don't know that. And so when they see that you're a New York Times bestseller, it's a big deal. They put a lot of credence against that. You get to increase your speaking fees. You get invited to bigger conferences and bigger clients. And so there's a lot of value put behind that, even though it's kind of bunk. So you have to play the game, I think.
Well, I guess I don't even, that wasn't even going to be my follow-up question. So, but I think where I was ultimately going with that is I think you play it in very specific and possibly strategic ways to where you feel like the tide has maybe not been turned. I guess that's maybe where I was asking with that question. And it feels like you pick and choose where your spot. So I was interested is why you do it in some areas and not others.
Yeah, I think, in PR specifically, the perception is that all we do is media relations or plan parties, and that there's no way to measure it, and that's the perception. So from that perspective, I can fight that tide because I have a pretty opinionated voice. I have a fairly popular blog in the industry, and so I can fight that tide. I can't fight the bestseller list tide.
So then, some of these things that, like you said, they might not necessarily be what we think they are. So how do we create the domino effect to maybe start changing those sorts of things?
Well, I can answer that from two perspectives. Spinsucks, the blog, launched in 2006 with the sheer purpose of changing the perception that people have about the PR industry. And it really is about doing things ethically and doing things right and not cheating your way through the system. I mean, I just saw yesterday that the Jackie Robinson Little League team got their title stripped because they cheated. Like, why do we do that? And people do this. I don't understand, because we always get caught, and it's always worse when we get caught. But for some reason, as human beings, we think, well, we cheat our way through college, we cheat our way through tests, we cheat our way, we do this. This is what we do as human beings. And so the blog launched with that sheer vision of changing that perception. It's a very difficult one to change, and not all leaders or industry organization believe that I'm correct. So that makes it difficult. From a bestseller list perspective, it's interesting because we started to see mumblings from other authors who were blogging about it and saying this is what happens. But last week, the Wall Street Journal did a big piece on it, and they broke it all down. So it started with the grassroots level of bloggers starting to talk about it, and then it built up to something that's really credible in the Wall Street Journal, and they did an investigative report on it and discovered that, yeah, the system is gamed. So that may change things. It may. And it may have created the opportunity to have the conversation and open the communication so that you can't game the system.
Wouldn't it just be, would it be possible if we all just turn our back on it anyways? Wouldn't that be just kind of the more grassrootsy, just, hey, we're just going to forget that it exists type of thing? Is that possible even? Do I live in a...
That's possible.
Yeah.
I think some of us could, but that doesn't mean everybody's. Think about it from the perspective of boycotting an organization. And we can use Uber as a great example of that. So Uber is the app where you can hail a cab right from your living room or the office or wherever, and have the cab show up at your front door, and you don't have to go out and hail a cab, or and then you can get right out of the cab. You don't have to pay them because it's connected to your credit card. Super. I love it here in Chicago because it's super convenient. I don't have to deal with all the baloney, especially if it's 20 below outside like it is today. But they've had really bad PR, and some of their drivers have attacked women, and their CEO is an arrogant jerk that's made too much money too quickly and doesn't know how to behave. And so people started calling for a boycott. Well, people don't boycott. They just don't, because it's convenient and it makes their life easier. So they're not boycotting it.
Interesting example. I don't know if you follow the YouTube channel Big Think at all, but they had a guy on there that talked about Uber and some of their mishaps, and I've never really agreed almost fully with somebody's statement on that channel than I did with his, like saying how they disrupt the market and boycotting, and like you said. But the one thing that did get me though is that they don't perform their background checks on a lot of drivers, whereas a lot of their drivers would never even get jobs with cab companies. That's about the only thing. That's I think crossing the line. Like if they want to charge me $600 for a cab because it's raining or there's 6 feet of snow, fine. That's my choice to pay it or not.
Right.
A little off topic, but I just wanted to get that in. So back to the whole cheating thing, though. You're a sports fan, so I'm assuming you've heard Jim Rome's radio show at some point in time.
I have.
And one of his big things is if you're not cheating, you're not trying. At least he says that. And I grew up listening to that as a kid. I'm glad it didn't have as deep of impact as it might have should. So, but anyways, my point to that is is that a mentality a lot of people adopt?
I think it is. I think that we're in a business world where, I have a really good friend who says to me all the time, I just don't have the same integrity that you have, so I don't mind cheating. And I'm like, oh my gosh! So, he keeps beating me on stuff, but I know that eventually I'm going to beat him. It's just the turtle in the hare kind of thing, I guess.
Okay, so my track record, we're going to get a little personal with my history here. So in high school, and a little bit in college, I was never was never all that excited about the material that I was learning in most classes. So I said, yeah, I really don't care about this. I would rather be doing something else. I would feel more beneficial. So in those instances, I might have bent the rules a little bit. I might have had a note card pre-planned with some tiny writing somewhere. I might have been thinking of different ways to, just save time and not worry about it. Is that wrong?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I just exposed my integrity to everybody and how I couldn't spell for crap in middle school, and I needed to pass the spelling test. I knew there was spell check. It's ridiculous. Like I know it's not going to matter. Anyways, we're going to take a break. We're going to let you turn the tables on everybody here and ask your second fearless question to the audience, something you always want to know the answer to, but we're a little unsure of the response. What is that question today?
It's a personal question that goes to children and how we plan for families. And today technology and medicine and science and all those kinds of things allow for you to have children even if you can't bear them yourself. But my question is, when you have 400,000 kids in the foster care system in the United States with no permanent home to go to, why do we as a nation continue to leave the country or do things like put our bodies through in vitro and things like that, and it doesn't work? Why do we do those things when there are plenty of children in this country, inside this country, who need to be adopted and have permanent homes?
Ooh, you're pulling the gloves right off today, Ginny. I tell you what, and you're also giving a little spoiler to something that we have in the works that we haven't been able to quite do yet, but maybe at some point.
I am.
Well, that's a heavy question. If anybody wants to weigh in on that, if they want to give their answer, we will be glad to pepper them in throughout the show. If I would probably give you my answer, at least what I think a lot of people think is probably the thought of the whole biological disconnection, possibly, of I want it to be my own flesh and blood sort of thing, maybe.
But I don't think that well, we can save this for later, but I don't think there is a disconnection. I think that you love children no matter what, and when a child comes to live with you, no matter how you got them, or a baby comes to live with you, no matter how you got them, they're your children. They're your children.
And I would agree with that. I mean, like I said, we're talking about the masses of the people, and we're talking about perception and the perception of having a family. There's that, oh, they have my eyes, they have my ears, or whatever that, or they act like me, they have my personality or whatever. I think that might be what prevents some people from taking that leap. But we'll see if anybody else wants to weigh in on I will give another award out right now of the deepest, most heartfelt, fearless question asked by the guests in show history. So you have that to set along right next to high maintenance, and so it's a pretty nice balance. You even things out pretty evenly, so you can walk away feeling pretty good about today, if I do say so myself. I'm trying my hardest. One of my other goals is to hand out the first ever Spit Take Award, but I'm trying to get it every time you're taking a drink. I haven't got it yet, but we'll see what we can do. Let's get back on track to the whole main topic of this conversation. So if these things, these perceptions, these lists, these identifiers, if they're kind of designed in a way to kind of essentially save us the time from doing the work ourselves, from identifying these things, is it worth it to take these things as face value to save that time, or should we be doing the research on our own?
So give me an example.
Well, for an example, as you said in your pre-show rant, being a New York Times bestseller allows you the opportunity or the ability to be invited into these companies that are going to look to that as kind of a barrier to entry. But if they were to dig deeper and not just look at that surface thing to say, listen, if you haven't hit this benchmark, then we're not even going to consider you. But if they look deeper, they would see that you're probably more qualified than just about everybody that is on that list.
I would like to think that people will do that, but they're not going to.
Well, I understand that's not the question. So should we be pushing towards a society where
of course, yes.
Or should we try and reform the benchmarks to save that time? Because if we're ultimately saying time is our most valuable asset, should we not try and make those things more reflective of the actual reality of the situation?
Well, what would be interesting, and this will never happen, but what would be interesting is if...
Well, we can't say that. Let's be a little positive, Jenny. Be a little upbeat.
I don't
Give me
think
a little sliver of
happen,
room for things.
if the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and organizations like that create these lists and distribute these lists, if they took the same approach that Google has with their algorithm and says, okay, you guys are gaming the system and it's pretty clear, so we're going to change the rules. So eventually, of course, you're going to find holes to poke into the rules, and then they have to keep doing it. So I think that it's up to the organization that creates this stuff to maintain the rules and make sure that people aren't gaming the system and they aren't cheating.
Do you think they will?
No. I think there's a better chance of them just getting rid of the list altogether than for them to change the rules.
So then this leads me to one of my last questions. Then should we not worry about what we know is irrelevant, and should we focus on building up what we know is instead?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably more productive, for sure.
And this kind of stems back to the conversation we had last time you were on the show of kind of your life's work of changing the image of the PR industry, as opposed to just saying, well, see you later, PR, we're going to go create this new awesome thing that's a lot better than you are. See you later, New York Times list, we're going to go create a new list and make that a thing that is, I mean, why doesn't Google create its own list? I mean, that can't be hard.
Yeah. Or Amazon. I mean, Amazon would know, right?
Yeah, Amazon is probably the most relevant person to create that list, huh?
Right.
All right, so I know we do have some people at Amazon that do watch the show, so if you guys want to take that idea, I think Ginny and I will allow you to use it, right? I think we could probably agree to that.
Absolutely. You can,
yeah?
Yes.
Okay. You never know. Well, I mean, I guess the point is, and this is a topic that I want to have Joe Polizzi back on the show to talk about, is fiercely questioning changing big business, and it's like we want to try and reform the big business that exists, as opposed to taking the business that might be on the cusp of being big business and more receptive to the message and just put them in place of them.
Right.
Is this because basically you've told me throughout the entire conversation that most of these thoughts of mine are pie in the sky and that you're pretty much out of your mind, Joey. But is there a way to make that happen?
I think there is, and I don't. Pie in the sky ideas always amount to something. I mean, I just saw Selma the other day.
You just gave me a pat on the back. We're going to give you a trophy for being here, is what you just basically said.
No, that's not true. I just saw Selma, which is the Martin Luther King story, and it's so powerful that this 36-year-old man started a protest to get things changed for blacks in our country. I mean, first it was segregation, and then it was right to vote, and creating the opportunity for blacks to have their constitutional rights. And he had to go to Washington, and he had to support, and he had to protest, and they had to do it nonviolently so that people weren't dying. And he was fighting Malcolm X, who was also creating this, but Malcolm X was doing it violently. So you have this opportunity where it is a pie in the sky thing, and you may never get there, but at least you're trying.
Well, Martin Luther King is a very interesting example. I don't know if you've done this recently, but about maybe 6 months ago, I pulled up the "I Have a Dream" speech on YouTube. I mean, like the whole thing, like not just the clip. Have you watched this recently?
I haven't.
I mean, go back and I mean, like if you watch this dude talk, like I mean, like nobody is smart enough to like speak the way that he did like then. Like even now, like I think we've deteriorated our ability to communicate so effectively. And if you watch like the way that he conveyed and told that story and delivered the message, like that's why it worked. I mean, he had it was pie in the sky, but he had the ability to actually make it reality. And I think so much of what we do, we don't focus on creating that ability anymore.
Yep.
So why are we lazy?
I think it's a function of doing more with less, which is the recession happened, and now we're having to do the jobs of 3 people. I think it's the function of, when we were kids, we were sent outside to play with the neighborhood kids, and today we have to schedule play dates, and we have to go to sports events, and we have to do all sorts of activities, and it's a function of giving kindergartners homework instead of letting them go to recess and learn how to socialize and learn how to color. I think it's a function of we're just trying to stuff so much into our lives instead of enjoying our lives that we try to cut corners where we can.
So what do you do with less
Doing more with less.
What do you do with less?
It's hard. I mean, I'm a typical entrepreneur, so I always have tons of ideas that I want to execute on and don't have all the time to do it. Yeah, I'm really task oriented, which makes me very, very productive. Except today, where I was 30 minutes late.
I wasn't even gonna say this. If everybody listening to the podcast was never gonna know how late you were, you just went and outed yourself to everybody. I was being nice. I was being a nice host.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the day, and by tomorrow I'm gonna be exhausted because I've been going so fast all week and trying to fit so much into one week that I will probably kill over and die into my bed with Netflix.
Well, I hope that doesn't happen. What are you watching on Netflix, really quickly?
Nothing right now.
No?
No.
You're open. You've got a wide universe of options. You don't know where you're going next. You have nothing in the works.
Where to go next?
Well, I will end the show with this question because I know you have a hard stop here. You got somewhere to be here very soon. What is your pie in the sky perception that you would want to change at some point outside of maybe PR?
Well, I was going to say it is the PR industry, and that's really what I'm working toward. I really don't know that the perception will change in my lifetime, but that is the legacy I want to leave behind for sure.
And you're going to get there by doing what you're doing, or is there something up your sleeve that you think you're going to need to go to a different level to get there?
Yes to both.
And we're not going to, obviously, so we're not going to get the answer to that question. So, Ginny, I do appreciate you taking the time to be with us here today. What do you want people to know? Where can people go find out more about you and not get a restraining order issued?
Don't go to Foursquare. Go to spinsucks.com. Everything's there.
Everything's there. Books still for sale, yes?
Yes.
The not New York Times bestseller will be something else bestseller book that is available. Maybe the new Amazon bestseller. Can we call it that?
New Amazon bestseller, yeah.
All right. All right, well, and if you want to hear Ginny, she did it again. She answered the fearless question of what she's most afraid to ask herself in her own life and business. If you want to do that, go over to fearlesslyquestioning.com. Right in the middle of the homepage, there's a big, huge form with Ginny's picture. I think it's there, saying that she's in the library of people that have answered that question, along with every other guest that has joined us throughout the months of this show. And for everybody,
almost here, you're getting close.
Oh, we're about halfway. It's about halfway. Well, it's 7-8 months, I think. So August it'll be a year. But everybody that's been there, 30 people so far, I think, 30-ish. So a lot of people there. And for everybody that is already a member of the library, well, you know where to go to get that. And we'll be talking to you Sunday. Of course, Sunday, for everybody that does sign up, you will be part of the kind of the aftermath conversation. So where I get to talk about Ginny a little bit, my thoughts, what I thought she really was saying or didn't say. We can have that conversation too. So go ahead and get over to fearlesslyquestioning.com to take part in that. But Ginny, I do appreciate you, as always, taking the time. It's a pleasure. And we might be seeing you back more than once again on the show. Is that correct?
You might be, yes.
Very special, maybe surprise in the works for that big 1-year anniversary. So we'll let people know about that. But Ginny, I'll let you get going, and we will take it easy. See you guys on the next one.
Bye.